And good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. Today is Thursday, March 20th, and I'm your host, Josh Engel. Very pleased today to have in the studio Mike Bedosky, Villa Rica High School principal since 2023. He has 29 years in education. I can't wait to see the 30-year celebration that you end up having. And a fun piece of information that we discovered upon doing some background research on Mr. Bedosky. He was a 4-year starter at offensive guard for the University of Missouri, and he is a 1993 inductee into the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame, which makes sense considering when I first met you at a Rise and Shine networking event in Villa Rica, I had to look up at you. And I'm 6'1", so I'm like looking up at you, you know. Mike, good morning, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And I'd love to talk, the focus of this episode is really to just to get to know Mike, to kind of get to know your story. It'll be your first time on the program. So we want to know as much as we can. Before we do that, why don't you tell us a bit about the Villa Rica school system or the Villa Rica High School and a bit about your position at the school.
Okay, definitely. So I'm the principal at the high school, and we in Carroll County, we do a cluster model. So we have the 5 different clusters: the Villa Rica cluster, Bowden, Central, Mount Zion, and Temple. And Villa Rica is the largest. If we were our own school system, we'd rank like 35 or 36 in the state size-wise. Including the high school, there are 7 schools inside the cluster. And my role as the high school principal, obviously, is to oversee the high school, how it runs, making sure everything is taken care of there, but also to oversee kind of the cluster schools as well. And for lack of a better term, serve as the superintendent for our cluster to make sure we're all aligned, we're doing the right things. How can we improve the education for our community, for our kids, make sure our teachers are being supported and retained, all those things that we want to help grow and help improve education in Villa Rica, but also in Carroll County.
That's great. I was not aware that that your role entailed that as well, which is it's great because then the whole cluster sort of has the same marching orders, moving in the same direction, same goal, and everything goes smoother when everyone's marching in the same direction.
That's right. When you're aligned, things go a lot better.
Well, it's a excellent school system. I know that cluster is beloved. Go Wildcats! So. If we could, just a quick reminder to listeners tuning in that this morning's program with Mike Bedosky is on our currently being live streamed on our WLBB News Talk 1330 Facebook page. So if you have any questions or comments for our guests, please feel encouraged to throw those in the chat. I have the chat pulled up here, so I'll be happy to read those questions out to Mike. Let's go back. So let's start. Where shall we start? Wow. I'd love to know a bit about your history, where you grew up, what your life was like growing up, and sort of how we got to where we are now.
That's a great question. And obviously with a last name like Bedosky, you can pretty much guess I was not born in the South. I was born in upstate New York. My mom was a journalist, and she met my dad up there. And then after mom and dad divorced, we moved back to my mom's hometown, which was Jefferson City, Missouri. And so I grew up in Missouri, was blessed enough to go Jeff City High School, played for a phenomenal coach. Coach Atkins just turned 100 last year, and when he retired, he was 405, 60, and 4.
Wow.
And so learned a lot from him. Went on, had the opportunity to play at University of Missouri, which I swore up and down I would not go to. But then it just was home. The coaching staff came in. Bob Stull was her head coach. And my offensive line coach, some people might have heard of a guy named Andy Reid, who I think might be with the Kansas City Chiefs now. So Coach Reid was my line coach for 3 of my 5 years at Mizzou. Met my wife at Mizzou through a guy I played ball with, and that will come back into the story in just a second. Had a brief opportunity playing in the NFL, played for the Falcons, and then I spent 1.5 years with Cleveland. And we were in Cleveland. I went back to school, got my teaching certification, started teaching in Columbus, Ohio, Hilliard, Ohio to be specific. We had our oldest son, and my wife decided to stay home. And at that time, we had no family in Ohio. And she's originally from Georgia. So her folks had moved to Springfield when she was 8. She had grown up in Springfield, Missouri. And they had moved back down here, so with her staying home, me teaching, and having Stephen, we decided to get closer to family, and so we moved to Carrollton, which is where her mom is from. And I was teaching in Douglas County, Open Chapel Hill High School. Spent 9 years there, and then I went to Alexander, spent 4 years at Alexander, and went down to Landmark Christian as a principal for 10 years. And then after 10 years, came back to public, and I was at Bay Springs for a year, and then Villa Rica High School for 2.
Excellent. So Bay Springs, that was the first school you were working at in Carroll County.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. How did that transition happen from Bay Springs over to the high school?
Well, honestly, we were going through some things were happening in county office, and some movement was taking place. Mr. Coward asked if I'd be interested in going over to VR. Because Mr. Rogers had expressed interest in going back to Temple where he was originally, and so we had an opportunity to do that, and I was excited, get back in the high school setting and stay inside the Villa Rica community, since I already built a lot of relationships, knew a lot of the kids from being at Bay Springs and a lot of the parents and guardians of our students. So I was happy for that, because I didn't have to start over, because as you know, starting over anytime is tough. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So clearly a packed history. You just sort of threw in there that you played for the NFL.
Yeah.
So you played for the Falcons and for Cleveland.
Yes, sir.
Talk to us a bit about that. I feel bad Mike Paris isn't here with me.
It was one of those things where I had a great career at Mizzou. It was something I always kind of dreamed about, and then had the opportunity. Came down to Atlanta as a free agent in '94. Was with June Jones. He was the head coach, and so we were going through that and made the team. We had an injury on the offensive line, and so they waived me to try to put me on developmental in my rookie year, and Cleveland claimed me off waivers. So I went to Cleveland, where I got to play for Bill Belichick.
Whoa.
And the defense coordinator was a guy named Nick Saban at that time. So I've had a lot of great coaches over the years to learn from, to what to do, what not to do. And so I spent a year and a half there, and then when I was released, I was completely happy with that. And when I had gone back to school to get certified, so that worked out. And then had some opportunities at the end of that season to go back, and my wife and I kind of decided that it wasn't. I was healthy. I was in one piece. She did not really like the NFL life, and so we kind of settled down and started.
I can't imagine how bashed and bruised you must have been. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And she's your Alfred at home. Exactly. Like trying to help clean you up.
Exactly. Trying to put all the pieces back together.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Well, before we take our we got our first comment that came in. Stephanie Warmoth. Good morning, Stephanie. Stephanie said, "Good morning, Dr. B."
Yeah. Good morning, Stephanie. How are you?
Not only does he play in the NFL, and he's a beloved principal, but he also has a cool nickname, Dr. B.
Yeah.
Before we jump to our first commercial break, I would love to, before we jump into a bit more of the maybe dig in a bit deeper into your professional career, into what brought you over into education. I would love just to quickly check. Is there anything that you may have picked up from Saban, Belichick, any of the coaches, your high school coach you mentioned who just turned 100? Is there anything that you can name off the top of your head, a wisdom that perhaps was imparted to you that you use to this day in your role as principal? Perhaps as a husband, as a father, anything that you use and hold dear to your to this day.
I think there's a lot, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint one thing, because from each of these men, I've learned. Right, like I said, I've learned good. I've learned bad. I've learned what to do, what not to do, how to handle people, how not to handle people. So to put it into one thing, I think it's hard. I think it's really kind of defined my leadership and the way I look at things, just because of the experiences I've had. And I'm speaking here in about a month at the leadership luncheon in Carroll, and as I started to kind of prepare my speech, I started kind of looking. I was kind of like, I've had kind of a interesting life when it really boils down to it. And just the way, my teachers, my coaches, they have all poured into me, kind of created who I am. And so you're back to your question, is there one spot or one thing that I can dig down to? Not specifically. I think probably with all of them, hard work and dedication and persistence will get you where you need to be. But it's just the combination of everything, because they all brought something different to the table. Totally different to the table. So we'll probably get into that a little bit later, but
I think that we could dedicate an entire show just to what you just said, just to those details. Yeah. Time is 8:40. We're going to go ahead and knock out our first commercial break. But when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Mike Bedosky, as we, the Villa Rica High School principal, as we chat a bit more about his history and a bit more about what brought him from the NFL into education. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
The AP Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined advanced placement curriculum track to earn a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically prepared students to pursue college-level studies throughout 17 AP courses in 5 subject categories while enrolled at OMA. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
And we're back to Community Voice. Today's Thursday, March 20th. I'm your host, Josh Engel, and we are live streaming this morning's interview with Villa Rica High School principal and former Atlanta Falcon, and they play for Cleveland, Mike Bedosky. Very, very, very pleased to have him in the studio with us today. We were, if you're just tuning in to this program, go back, check out the full podcast of this episode, which will be uploaded to this station's website as well as gradicommunications.com. And also the live stream, which is currently happening right now on our WLBB News Talk 1330 Facebook page. If you have any questions or comments for our guest, Principal Bedosky, please feel free to jump in the chat. I'd be happy to read those out. Shout out to Stephanie Warmoth, who gave us our first comment. Thank you very much for that, Stephanie. All right, well, let's jump back into it. So we were able to cover a bit of your history growing up in Missouri. And you mentioned your mom was a journalist. Yeah. Can we just expound upon that for a second?
Definitely, yeah. So she went to University of Missouri, J School, #1 in the country, go Mizzou. And so she was a newspaper writer for several years until when she graduated from college, she went to Delaware, spent a couple years in Delaware, and then started writing for the Binghamton, New York newspaper. And that's where she met my dad, was up in Binghamton.
Wow.
And so that's how she ended up in New York. I was born up there, and like I said, when mom and dad divorced, she moved back to her hometown and grew up with my mom and my gram. And that's she pushed me into sports to make sure I had male influences since I was living in a house of ladies. Yeah. And so it was, that's kind of how it all started.
It's a funny scene. I just can't help but imagine like you having to bend over to get into a door, and she's like, "You should go into sports."
Yeah,
you definitely.
Yeah, I was always big for a kid. It was one of those things. Yeah, but she just wanted the male influences because we just didn't have it with mom and gram and dad being up in New York, and so it was just
Sure. Wow. I mean, those were very special times. That's very cool. Did she have any particular beat for the paper? Did she cover crime or pop?
No, she was, let's see, I'm trying to think. She did a lot of, I think in Delaware, it was more like women's activities, stuff like that. When she went to Binghamton, she covered, it might have been some city government and stuff like that. But I know she had several articles. Like, she actually had an offer to go to the New York Times.
Whoa.
And she turned it down to get married and have me, basically. So
tale as old as time.
Yep, exactly. So I mean, I thank her for that. But yeah, she had an opportunity to go big time. So she was pretty good. And like even today, like she'll edit stuff for me and look over things, and yeah, she's pretty awesome.
No doubt. I mean, it'll come full circle when your retrospective comes out in the New York Times on the front
exactly.
page.
Yeah, something like that. We got ways to go on that one, Josh. We got ways to go.
Dedicated to your mom.
Yeah.
Well, so let's pick back up or go back a piece when your time, with the NFL was coming to a close. Your wife was very glad about that. She
Yeah.
didn't have to put you back together after all these games. What led you into education? Were there any teachers when you were a kid that inspired you? What facilitated?
How
that
did I get
change?
to where I am today? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, a lot of it goes back to what I said about my mom a minute ago. She pushed. Well, I was always wanted to be in athletics, but she really made sure, like every season, I was doing something. Whether it was soccer, or baseball, or swimming, or floor hockey, or whatever, I was doing something. So I'd have male influences in my life, and so as I grew. Like the first real dad figure, I guess I could call, was my PE coach in elementary school, Mr. Foster. And so he got me involved, started pushing me into stuff. And then, he moved to junior high, and Gail Jones, one of my football coaches. And I get to 8th grade, and that's really where Coach Jones took over. Then I get to high school, and just my teachers, and Coach Johnson, who's my wrestling and defensive and offensive line coach, and then Coach Atkins, who in high school, he was not my favorite human being. Okay, so I told you Coach Atkins is 100. He served in World War II in the Pacific.
Oh,
so you can start to imagine what practices were like. Like, we got one water break, and it was 3 minutes come from a PVC pipe.
It sounds like Cotton Hill.
Yeah,
talking about
exactly.
climbing over
Yeah.
Iwo Jima.
Yeah, pretty much it was, and that's the way he ran it, because he was very much in that military mindset, and everything was that way, and very organized. But like we were, as I said, we were very successful. And senior year, we won state championship. I think we finished ranked 7th in the nation. He was very good, but he was very strict and everything. But just through high school, I had some phenomenal teachers. And so, of course, I go to college, and I play, at the University of Missouri. It's kind of the exact flip. I went from never losing a game pretty much in high school to we were 2-9 my first year at Mizzou. And I was just like, whoa, what's happening? But it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of humility. It taught me to understand a lot of people. Had phenomenal coaching staff, made phenomenal friends, met my wife. And so after my freshman year at Mizzou, so Mrs. Heckenberg was my 8th grade history teacher, Mrs. H. And I always had fun with her. I loved Magnum PI. I love Tom Selleck. I always wear Hawaiian shirts, right? And she'd always laugh at it.
You got to crack those shorts
exactly,
out every once in a while.
The corduroy ones, the OPs, right? And so then she also moved up to high school and was my junior U.S. history teacher. And so I was in her class one day, and we were messing around. She looks at me and she goes, "Mike, when you grow up, you are going to be a history teacher." I looked right back at her and said, "Mrs. H, no way, they don't make enough money." Flat out told her. And so I was like, okay, that's what it's going to be. So going into college, I planned to be a vet. That was what I was going to do, veterinary medicine. After my first year, I worked for a YMCA day camp, had 6 and 7-year-old boys all summer. So we were outside playing, building forts, all that stuff. And I was kind of like, this is kind of fun. I kind of enjoy this. And so I went back to Mizzou. The following semester, was starting on the football team, and I was taking Genetics 202 with Dr. Cohn. I will never forget that lady. And so during the course of the class, like, you want to talk about struggling. I was struggling. And so I went to her, and I said, what do I need to do, to pass, to be successful? She goes, you need to drop the course. I'm like, well, I can't. I'll be ineligible for football. And so I went in, I was with my TA every day, and at the end of the thing during the exam, we'd start with like 250, 300 kids in the class. There might have been 50 of us taking the exam. And they gave me a D. Like, she gave me a D for that course. But that changed my trajectory. And so I kind of was thinking, okay, do I want to go into education? What do I want to do? And then I took a class, the history of Sparta, because I'd had an 8th grade class that talked about it with Mr. Stewart. And I met Dr. Steve Bradford. And ended up taking a bunch of classes from him on ancient history, really turned me around. And what I realized was I was not going to graduate in time if I tried to do education. So I just have to come back. So I had the opportunity to play in the NFL. The Browns had a program where they pay half tuition if you went back to school at a local college. Plus I got a scholarship from the National Football Foundation College Hall of Fame. So I was using that to pay for my teaching classes. And then when I got released, I just went into coaching and teaching and finished that up, and then went into it. And but I got into education because of the phenomenal teachers, coaches I had. And I wanted to be able to give that back to the kids wherever I was, because it's that important. Because like me, a lot of kids don't have father figures. They might not have a mother figure. Some people have two parents, right? I mean, they're blessed, and so for me, I wanted to give back. And originally I was going to coach and teach my entire career. Never thought I'd go into administration. And then had a principal at one of my stops, and I was like, okay, well, I can do better than this. And then I went. That's when I started my doctorate. It was like, okay, I know I can get a doctorate if he, can do this. And so I got my doctorate, and then I was asked by Landmark to come down and interview for their high school principal, and didn't get that job, but it got me thinking. And so I did aspiring principals in Douglas County. I was in the first cohort, was moving up in that, and then Landmark called back and offered a middle school principal spot. And so I was like, okay, because I looked at, like, in my room, I can impact, 180 kids a day. As I move up, I impact more. And so getting into administration allowed me to have that opportunity, to impact not 180, but, at VR, we're at 1,650, 1,700 kids.
Wow.
And then you can make hopefully a difference somehow in their lives. For good, and that's the thing, for a betterment somehow.
What a great way to pay tribute to the teachers and coaches that helped you learn yourself.
Yeah.
And that includes shortcomings. That
Yes.
includes being humbled every once in a while, and helping you develop into the man you're going to be one day.
Exactly.
And then the impact you'll have on the kids and the faculty, everyone that you work with. I mean, congratulations. It's not easy to get a master's, let alone get a doctorate.
Yeah.
So, congratulations on what you've accomplished after all these years of very, very hard work.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Josh. But I love it. I mean, that's why I do it. If you have a job you love, you never work a day in your life. And so...
Time is 8:52. We're going to go and take our last commercial break, but when we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with Villa Rica High School Principal Mike Bedosky as we wrap up, chatting a bit about his mission and vision and goals for Villa Rica High School and the Villa Rica School Cluster moving forward. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
The customized academic scholar journey at Oak Mountain Academy is individually designed to provide students with a personalized, clearly defined academic track that earns the student a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically driven students to pursue a focused, rigorous course of study personalized to their wants and desires. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
And we're back to Community Voice. Today is Thursday, March 20th. We have about 7 more minutes with our guest here, Villa Rica High School Principal Mike Bedosky. If you're just tuning in, this guy's got an amazing story. I mean, he came in, I knew that he had a rich history in education, 29 years this year. But throughout the course of the show, I learned a lot. Learned a lot about his time playing for the NFL. And just football and sports in general, as well as some of the wisdoms he's gained from some of the historical figures. It's great that you ended up teaching, because history, because here you are interfacing with some real historical figures. Very pleased to have another comment that came in on the live stream, which is just a quick reminder. If you have any last minute questions or comments for our guest, Principal Bedosky, please hop in the chat. I'd be happy to read those out to him. Yet again, another group celebrating you. Partners Advancing Student Success. Dr. B is an incredible leader and a huge supporter of PASS. We're so grateful for his leadership and the powerful impact he makes on students' lives. Thank you so much for that comment. That was awesome.
Yeah, Pass does so much for our kids. They are absolutely amazing.
They're out of sight.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tanisha and Michael, who are my Pass advocates, do so much to just improve the lives of kids and give kids an opportunity, which is what we want.
Absolutely. Give them opportunities that you've had, the opportunities you've seized, some of which, and this happens to all of us, some of the which opportunities we squandered. I mean, there are moments we miss, and those moments help define us just as much as the experiences that we have and the moments that we seize, the growth that we experience. In the time we have left, we have about 5 minutes. I would love to
narrow it down as quick as I can. What you're telling me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'd love to, just to touch on your vision and your goals for Villa Rica High School and the Villa Rica cluster of schools.
Definitely, and I'll keep this as short and sweet as I can. For Villa Rica High School, we are learning a higher learning environment. We want kids to come in there and have an opportunity to go out and impact our communities, whether it's through being, enrolled in school after high school, if they're employed in the community, or if they're enlisted. But we want them to go out and do those things and have a great background and a great foundation so they can make those decisions, and they can go out and make an engaged commitment to where we are, whether it's VR, which we hope they do, or if they go out and they're in California or New York, they're making an impact and they're taking what we did at VR and giving that to somebody else. We want that education to be strong. We want that foundation to be strong.
Absolutely. And when you do retire, years and years from now, what would you like to be able to look back as far as a legacy and say, well, I accomplished this, and we accomplished this, I and my team?
That's a great question. I think the biggest is it made a difference. We made a difference in the life of a child. I think if you get into education really is a calling. It's making a difference. And sometimes, it's the difference may not be seen at the minute, but 10, 15 years down the road. And that's what I tell, my teachers when they come in as brand new teachers. This is not an instant gratification job. Like it's if you're in elementary, it could be 15 years. If you're in middle, it could be 7. If you're in high school, it could be 5 or 10. But when you're in that grocery store and that kid you had comes up, hey, coach, I want to introduce you to my wife and kids.
Whoa.
That's the difference. I think to make an impact, and I mentioned earlier, my high school coach was tough, and I did not appreciate him when I graduated. But looking back and knowing the difference, his tough love, and it was very tough, made me who I am, and I can't thank him enough for it. Just like all my coaches, Coach Reed, what he did for me. But it's just that, at the moment, we as humans crave structure. We crave discipline. We need that in our lives. And sometimes we have to provide that. And sometimes students don't like it. Sometimes teachers don't like it. But in the long run, it's something that's going to benefit them and everybody, because you have to have that to be successful.
Mike, you're a powerful presence, but also a super cool guy. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you this morning, talk to you a bit about your history. Thank you for everything that you and your faculty and staff are doing to enhance the lives of the students out in Villa Rica. I want to give a quick plug. Oh, one last comment, Carrie Miller. We are so blessed to have a great leader at Villa Rica High School. Carrie, I'm going to have to agree with you. What a great guy, great speaker. Speaking of being a great speaker, don't forget to miss Mike's engagement at the April Villa Rica Leadership Luncheon. He's going to be speaking on April 16th. So don't miss that. It's going to be around lunchtime, I believe.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure.
It starts 11 to 1, somewhere in there.
I mean, he told us a lot, but he saved all the really good bits for that talk.
So, I get 15 minutes there, so I don't know. It might be a little tighter.
Hey, maybe they'll just project this interview there. But don't miss the opportunity to meet Mike in person. Go meet him at the Villa Rica Leadership Luncheon. Shake his hand. Ask him some questions about Belichick and whatnot. Mike, again, thank you so much, brother.
Definitely.
And to everyone who tuned in this morning, we'll see you next time.